We are back. Michael Bratton joining us. It's been a while since we've seen Michael here on the show. I don't know why. He must have offended someone and got suspended. But he is back now. Michael Bratton, say hello to him from that SEC podcast. Michael, it seems like Jimbo Fisher is on the tip of many people's tongues today. What about you? What's to make out of the ever interesting Jimbo story?
Yeah, well, first of all, appreciate you, Paul, as always, for having me on. But, hey, I hate to say it. A&M thought they were getting the next Nick Saban. They got the next Les Miles. And let's just call it what it is. I mean, he's an offensive guy. He's supposed to be a quarterback whisperer.
For laughing.
I can't remember the last good quarterback he's brought in there. Even Kellen Mond. This is what I've been saying in the offseason. Kellen Mond looked great as a sophomore under Jimbo. I was thinking, my goodness, this guy could be all SEC. Never really got better. And he had an elite running game to rely on. It's always somebody else's fault, Paul. Zach Calzada was the problem last year. Well, it may be bold to say, Paul, I love to say bold things. I think A&M probably has a better shot against Alabama this week if they had Zach Calzada after what we saw him do against the Crimson Tide. So I just can't wait to see who's next to blame. It's nobody's fault. It's never Jimbo's fault. It's everybody else's fault.
Well, A&M people are naturally digging in. We all know the backstory, the investment. But at some point, when is there a meeting of the minds about what the best direction for this program is?
Well, here's the thing, Paul, and I think even myself, I overlooked this. I thought A&M had enough talent to where they could overcome Jimbo's coaching, and they just can't do that. So naturally, we got to get around Jimbo somehow. We've got to force him to bring in an offensive coordinator. I would even suggest a play caller, Paul, because he's changed running back coaches, receivers coach. Kirby Smart run off Coley. Jimbo ran him in. It looks like we're seeing the offense that Georgia had that led him to have Todd Monken, which of course went to the national championship. So we've got to bring someone in here. I said this in the offseason. I don't know if Joe Brady that's a realistic option for A&M because I don't know if Joe Brady wants to coach in college. But that's what they need. They need to bring someone in there to modernize this offense. Get them. They have all these receivers, Paul. They get some of the best receivers in the country. They do nothing with them. They need, and I'll tell you another one, Paul. I know I come on here and I get people upset. What they need to do is go up to Arkansas, steal them Kendall Browse. If they had a competent offensive play caller, Texas A&M's got the rest of the pieces. They would be an SEC and a college football playoff contender.
But as you know, Michael, to do all this, you have to have a head coach who's willing to get out of his own way. And so far, there aren't any indications that Jimbo Fisher is going to do that. And is there anyone like his boss who could lead him to do that?
I don't think Jimbo's got a boss. I mean, he's playing with house money. He's got $95 million coming his way, fully guaranteed for some reason. I guess because Scott Woodward had a crush on him. And if I'm an LSU fan, I think that's the best thing that ever happened to us was not being able to pry Jimbo Fisher back to Baton Rouge. Brian Kelly, you want to talk about coaching. He's got this team duct taped together. He's got freshmen on the offensive line. He's got sophomores on the offensive line. This team is, I don't know how they're doing it, Paul, but they're currently undefeated in the SEC. It's because Brian Kelly and his staff is coaching up this team. We'll see if that holds with Tennessee coming to town. But, that's the difference right now. A&M doesn't have the coaching. LSU does. And A&M is looking up at LSU in the standings, which is just pitiful.
You mentioned, you alluded to it a minute ago, or somebody did. As you look at the A&M schedule, they've lost twice. I'm going to go ahead and chalk up one more this weekend. Doesn't matter now what happened with Arkansas. Realistically, as we look at the schedule, and I'll just read it to you. I guess you can see it too, can't you? We got Alabama. That one looks like a third loss. The second half of the season, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Florida, at Auburn, UMass, and LSU. How many wins do you see over there?
2, maybe 3. I mean, South Carolina, surely you think they could beat them, but Shane Beamer and company, I mean, they've been pretty pitiful on offense themselves, Paul. If they get that thing going, they've got a good home field advantage. They've been known to upset a team or two. So I'll give them South Carolina. But again, what are we talking about here? We're saying A&M, which a lot of people had slotted as the second best team in the West, should be a playoff contender.
Yeah, they started out number 6 in the country.
Maybe they could beat the 5th best team in the SEC East, maybe. But again, I'm not even giving them that. They'll beat UMass, and I'll give them Auburn too because I don't know if Auburn can win a conference game at this point in time.
So we're looking at 7-5. That's two more losses after Saturday? That might be. I don't know if that's being charitable or short sighted. And what does Jimbo Fisher say if he even if he goes 8-4, and that's only one more loss after Saturday? I mean that is not great. 8-4 2 years in a row. Come on.
Yeah, A&M fans get tired of the 8-4 jokes. They'll be begging for 8-4 by the end of this slate, Paul. I mean, it's just a disaster. I mean, they've not put together a competent game. They were, I'll give them credit for beating Arkansas, but there were some interesting plays in there. We've all seen the doink and everything like that. But, I mean, Miami looked pitiful. That's one of the worst teams I've seen come into an SEC house. They showed me nothing. What have they done? And I don't understand why everyone's got Jimbo's back. I'm not sitting here saying we should fire him. We should buy him out, Paul. We're spending all these people's money, but he's putting he's lucky that he's got a good defensive coordinator. I'll say that, Paul, because he's been living on defense. I guess that's the only part of that A&M program he doesn't touch. He is recruiting. He's got the third best roster in the SEC, Paul. He may have the third worst team in the SEC. So they have got to blow this offense up, and I don't know how you do that. They looked a little bit better going up tempo. I guess you go that direction, but the only problem with that, I don't like to sit here and blame the players, but Haynes Ging, he throws about as many interceptions as Brett Favre.
Michael Bratton with us in case you just joined us and were wondering. Welcome back to the Jimbo Fisher Roast here on the Comedy Central channel. Michael, let me get to some other than Jimbo Fisher, which is obviously the biggest story of the week. What else has you and your followers gnashing their teeth right now?
Well, I really want to see this LSU Tennessee game, Paul, and because everybody's jumping on the Tennessee bandwagon. I'm a graduate there, so I wish them well. But you see, with all due respect, a lot of people they're putting Tennessee in the playoff conversation.
Yeah, we just heard that.
And right, and what you're overlooking there, they do have a dynamic offense. I think if they're firing on all cylinders, Paul, they could on offense, they could compete with Alabama. They could compete with Georgia because maybe they can outscore them. But where Tennessee is severely lacking, and it may get exposed even this weekend, Paul, is on that line of scrimmage. And we saw that even against Pitt. They don't have the offense or the defensive line to run the table in the SEC. And I think even against a team like LSU, which has a very good defensive front, even with their best defensive lineman out for the season, I think they control that line of scrimmage, and it may be a long day for Tennessee's offense. Now, again, Josh Heupel, Hendon Hooker, they deserve all the credit for just the incredible turnaround on Tennessee. But that line of scrimmage is going to come back to get you. And we haven't even talked about the defense, which made Anthony Richardson look like a Heisman contender after South Florida made him look like he shouldn't even be starting in the SEC.
Michael Bratton, let me ask you about the Auburn situation. I think it's pretty well established what's going to happen there at some point in the next few weeks. But what do you think Auburn should do once that situation clears up?
Well, we got to give Auburn credit, Paul. I mean, they are fantastic at jumping out to a big lead and blowing it. I think there's 5 games in a row they've given away a double-digit lead in a conference game. So they got half the makings of a good team, it looks like, Paul. But I don't know how attractive that job is. I mean, we've seen people like Napier turn it down, Brent Venables, who he may be one and done at Oklahoma, but he wanted no part.
He's really setting the woods on fire out in Oklahoma. Congratulations, Oklahoma. You got yourself a good one there.
Exactly. So, I mean, we see the home environment. Auburn deserves, those fans are outstanding. They deserve, these boosters and all these meddling people to get out the way. But because of those boosters, I don't know how attractive of a job this is. I mean, I think you're just going to hear the same names. Hugh Freeze. Maybe we can get old Petrino to ride his motorcycle on down. Matt Campbell is a name I hear. But again, is that going to really excite you if you're Auburn? I mean,
by the way, has Matt Campbell done something that I missed that would make him an attractive candidate for some job?
Absolutely not, Paul. But at every job opening, I hear his name because from what I hear, he's desperate to get out of Iowa State. So even connected to a job like Auburn, I think he'll be at least rumored for it. I have no idea if Auburn has any intention of hiring Matt Campbell, but they're going to have to get someone like that, someone that's desperate for the job because of all the meddlings.
Michael Bratton, once again, I don't know about the audience. I'm certainly entertained by you. Always great to have Michael on. Thank you very much, Michael. We will talk to you soon. Michael opened. I asked him about Jimbo Fisher. He said Alabama. He said Texas A&M thought it was hiring Nick Saban. They ended up with Les Miles. Only on this show do you get comments like that. We are back after this. Don't forget, much more to come. Blake